Hey there, product marketers. Welcome to GTM Happy Hour, where I meet with experts from product to marketing, sales to success. Product marketing is evolving into go-to-market strategy leadership, and PMMs are having to find ways to connect with the cross-functional team members they need to lead go-to-market launches. I'm Jamie Walsh. I'm a product marketing and go-to-market advisor who's been in B2B SaaS for over 20 years. Over that time, I've had quite a few drinks with the experts that I admired, and it helped me grow to where I am today. I hope you enjoy the conversation. On today's episode, I meet with Chris Orlob, co-founder and CEO of pclub, who delves into the sales process for the #1 skill transformation platform for revenue teams. We discuss the structured approach to discovery calls, pipeline generation, and the importance of scaling demand alongside sales headcount. We also explore revenue efficiency, customer retention strategies, and the significance of product market strategy in achieving go-to-market success. Let's grab a drink.
So take me through the process a little bit that you have for your AEs in terms of how you go about selling pclub.
We have a pretty predictable sales motion. So our we have internal courses on how to sell pclub specifically, right? These are not courses you'll find in pclub, but we have a discovery course because the way we do discovery is really specific. And like the short version is we want our reps finding between 4 to 6 like very concrete skill gaps that head of sales is seeing in their sales organization. That's like the first half of our discovery call. And then the second half is getting clear on the business outcomes that would be positively effective if we were to successfully close those skill gaps. And so we run that like clockwork, right? Like we can all do that discovery call until we're practically asleep. It's really predictable, really effective. And then the second call is typically a 45-minute quote unquote demo call. We don't call it that because the demo of what we do is only a tiny piece. And that call is pretty well structured too. We'll always start with 2 what we heard slides that summarize what we did in the previous call, right? What business outcomes are they trying to affect? What are the skill gaps? And then we'll walk through a pretty well choreographed presentation of how we can help at pclub. And after that, the sales process can go a number of different ways. But if we get those 2 parts of the sales process right, and if we're talking to the right people, we have pretty high close rates.
So take me a step before that. So then what's the cadence that you use, or what's the process that you use? Is it automated? Is it through SDRs or what have you, to get to that point where you know that they're ready to close, if at all, within the next month or 2? And I imagine that's what your sales like. I don't imagine people are spending 12 to 18 months to look at that. That's they need help now. And even in the first couple of days or weeks of your courses, I'm sure that reps are starting to really amplify those learnings into what they're doing. So take me through, how do you get to the point where you really understand whether you have somebody on the hook?
Like, how do we find pipeline, or are we asking something?
How do you find your pipeline? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I don't feel like we've cracked the code on outbound yet. So that's probably something on our bucket list for us to figure out. Right now we have a few sources of pipeline. One is LinkedIn, right? So I do my best to write something on LinkedIn just about every day. That's created a lot of inbound demand for our business. I would estimate that 80% of our B2B revenue, which is, in the multi-millions at this point, it has come from inbound. The second thing that works pretty well for us, but I don't think is predictable, is what we call B2C2B. And so that's when we get a bunch of account executives signing up for pclub, on their own devices. And if we get enough account executives at a single account to sign up, then that's kind of a signal for us to go prospect into that account. And so HubSpot is one of our customers. That's actually how we started a sales cycle with HubSpot. Is I think we had like 16 account executives throughout HubSpot who had bought pclub themselves, one of which was the top performing account executive in the enterprise group. and she helped us get a meeting with the VP of Enterprise Sales. And I want to say 70 days later, we closed a solid deal with HubSpot. So we've got like inbound where people just straight up come to us through demo requests. They ask me, I'll distribute it to our reps. We've got this B2C to B motion. And then we're just starting to get better at like B2B demand marketing, where we'll put like some top of funnel assets out there, right? Like I'm working on a cheat sheet right now called 24 sales training tips. It's going to sound better than that, I promise. But then we're going to as bait into the market, see who's raising their hand for the topic of sales training. And then my reps, we'll have a lead management system. We haven't like deployed all that yet. We're just starting to get good at that motion. That's what we did at Gong, though. That's what worked so well over there. And so I'm kind of stealing some of the marketing playbook I implemented my first couple of years there.
Yeah. So, but now they're obviously different products, right? One is more of an educational piece, and the other one is really technical component to help speed up the pipeline and do things that I think are underrepresented in terms of data capture, right? And with Gong and with Conversature before that, right? You're relying on reps to manually input that data after the fact. Half the time they're checked out, or if if it didn't go well, or they're so busy because they're jumping from rep to opportunity, that data just isn't there. But let me ask you a little bit about the demand side of it. So obviously you had a lot of great growth with Conversature, and then with Gong. What's the demand curve here right now for pclub? Are you at a point where you're looking to grow the team? You're outpacing the ability to sell and capture that demand? Or talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm approaching demand and scaling demand a little bit differently than how we approached it at Gong, right? Because at Gong, by the time we were really starting to get our marketing wheels turning, we had probably $20 or $30 million of venture capital in the bank. We don't have that here at pclub. We did raise a small round of outside funding, but it's less than $1 million. And so I'm scaling demand and sales headcount kind of side by side. And I look at that very closely. So we just hired our third account executive a week ago, right? He started a week ago. I had 2 in place before that. And I didn't hire my 4th, 5th, and 6th account executive for a reason. Because right now I feel like the demand we're able to generate can adequately feed 3 account executives well, but I'm not yet confident that it would feed 4 or 5. And so right now the job is to ramp these reps, or ramp the new one, make sure our revenue per rep is solid and healthy, and continue ramping up our B2B demand to get it a little bit ahead of what we need in sales headcount, and then go bring in our 4th rep. And it's just kind of lather, rinse, repeat that process, up until we have a very big business. That's what we're trying to build. We're not, I wish I had the wiring needed to build a lifestyle business. I'd probably be happier. That's not what I'm trying to do, though. I'm trying to build a very large, impactful company that helps transform the skill sets and the education of many, many revenue professionals.
Well, you gave me the piece I was looking for in terms of like the metric, right? The revenue per rep, right? I'm sure you have other headcount as part of the team for pclub, right? That aren't reps, but that's a good measure. I'm assuming, to see where you have that inflection point where you say, okay, we're getting way too high on the revenue per rep amount, and that's probably measured, matched with the forecasting to say we need to make that new hire.
Forecasting takes on a very different meaning when you don't have tens of millions of dollars in the bank account. You almost become obsessed with your forecast, because you have to be, right? It's like, what money can we expect to be coming in this quarter and next quarter? Because if there's a problem, like we need to solve that. And if we're forecasting heavy quarters, like very positive ones, and we're confident in that, then we can grow our business faster by spending money that maybe we don't yet have, but we're 99% sure is going to come in the door. And now we can grow faster, but still responsibly. It's an interesting dynamic. I didn't have to deal with any of this at Gong, right? I didn't personally own like a P&L, let alone like cash flow statements or anything like that. And here at pclub, we're very focused on having the right gross profit dollars per employee. And so there's nobody that we hire who is not making an impact on the business, right? Everybody's got to quote unquote pull their weight. That doesn't mean they have to be closing deals. Even administrative people can drive up your gross profit per full-time employee. But it also does demand that you have a performance culture. And that's another thing I've learned is like making sure profit and culture play well together. Because if you focus too much on one, usually comes at the expense of the other, and can be a hard nut to crack.
For sure. And I think you mentioned some of this, and so you're bootstrapping at pclub at this point yourself, right? This is, I imagine, how this is working for you, and runway and your cash flow. Obviously, you have to be hypersensitive to that as the the founder of this company, for sure. So what kinds of tricks are you implementing to be as efficient with your go-to-market process as possible? I mean, you've obviously got a lot of experience with selling the service itself and how to make reps hyper efficient. I've seen in the past you were in marketing when you transitioned from Conversant over to Gong. That is 2/3 I look at of the go-to-market. The other third is that success. Like, how do you keep people continuing to come back? Obviously, with an educational service, that can to some degree be a one-time purchase in a lot of cases. But I imagine that you have sort of knock-on services that you can continually educate clients with. So talk about the efficiency of the overall go-to-market process for you.
Well, I think a big part of it is like, it would have almost been silly for me to not start this business, just given like the audience I had spent years building on LinkedIn. Like, there was demand for this. And so our revenue efficiency is really high, right? You launch a business after having 100,000 followers in the audience that you're going to build a business on. And, you can generate some revenue pretty fast. And so that's a big piece, is just like, we're very big on audience building here. The second is we're, as a result of my time at Gong, we're pretty good at building a rhythmic, repeatable, predictable sales process. That's a huge part of revenue efficiency. As far as retention, you'd be surprised. Sure, like, we do have some business customers that see this as like a one-time purchase, but our business model is we're constantly releasing new courses. They're all specific to new skill gaps, new roles. And most of our customers will take their organization through about one course per quarter. And so that's for a year. And at the time of this recording, I think maybe we have 45 courses or so. And so the way we position pclub is it's continual skill transformation for your work, right? We like to say sales trot or sales training is not an event, it's a process. And that's exactly what pclub is. And in some ways, we like to think that we're kind of transforming the sales training space a little bit by changing that model. So our retention's pretty good. Hiring customer success managers right now to help us juice that up even further. And then the other thing is, you said there's 3 legs of go-to-market, right? There's sales, there's marketing, there's CS. I would say the fourth one is product market strategy, right? So can you, and this is like the job of the CEO, it is, can you build a product for a market that is so good that when it comes to selling it, it's like taking a hot knife and slicing it through butter, right? That's in the entrepreneurial world, there's a lot of literature that teaches you figure out all of your tasks and then realize that some tasks are worth $10 an hour, $100 an hour, $1,000 an hour, $10,000 an hour. To me, like, the right product market strategy tasks as a startup CEO, that's worth $100,000 an hour if you're doing it right. Now, unfortunately, you can't spend 10 hours doing that and expect to make $100,000 an hour, but like 1 or 2 hours a week of like really making something that's easy to sell, easy to market. It's probably going to take a year or two for that to come to fruition. But to me, that is how you really build enterprise value. Amit, the CEO of Gong, he still says this. He said this to me early. He said the key to building a big, successful company is build a product so good that a weak sales team could sell it, weak go-to-market team, and then build a go-to-market team and a sales team that's so good that they could sell a weak product. And you do both of those things, and you've got a juggernaut.
Yeah, from my perspective, I look at so as a former product marketer, I look at that as the glue in between a number of different legs of the go-to-market machine. So we look at sales honestly tends to be the biggest driver in a lot of organizations, pulling product along. But there's a lot of strategy involved in making sure that you go after the right customers with the right product, because you can't sell what you have to everyone. But then you have the marketing team that's doing things to prime those sales and get people right. If you're thinking about only 5 to 10% of your total addressable market are actually in market, you got to do something to keep them fervently aware of who you are. And you need somebody that's there in the middle of the process to really know when's the right time to strike, and looking at signals and looking at things. And then, a lot of organizations that I've seen, the success team gets a deal and they have to, service a customer that was sold one thing and they are used to servicing something a little bit different. So maybe on that note, have you ever had a deal where after the sale had required so much attention by a success team? And I'm sure, since you don't have that at pclub yet, you're talking about, past at Gong, you actually regretted winning that deal. And sometimes it ends up being the biggest deals because but maybe they hear.
I've never had that experience, but I've heard about it a lot, because I never had that experience at Gong because I was measured on revenue, right? If I was measured on gross profit or some efficiency metric, then I guarantee I would have had that experience. We had many customers at Gong who probably, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze as far as the ARR they were paying us versus like the level of support. One of the things I read recently that's related to that, though, is like analyzing your customers by profit, right? There's this book, I can't even remember what it's called. It's like sitting right over on my desk. Simple Numbers, Big Profits, something like that.
Yeah.
And he uses this example, which I don't totally agree with, but he does make a very good point. He says, revenue, I don't care about your revenue at all. I care about your gross profit. And here's why. You can go to a typical contracting business, right? Like construction contracting, and you ask them their revenue and they'll say 20 million. But then you ask them, you dig into like some of those numbers, and the majority of that revenue goes to subcontractors. And so when you take that out and you just look at gross profit, their gross profit's probably $2 to $3 million a year, which is basically like a good services business. And so, comparing a $20 million contracting business to a $2 to $3 million service business, they are actually about the same thing in terms of the wealth they're producing for the people that own the company. But the revenue numbers make one look almost 10 times bigger. And I think a lot of that comes, there's probably a lot of wisdom in analyzing your people for, are they pulling up their weight enough, which we do here, and even your customers, right? If you close a $500,000 deal, that's great. Do they consume less than $500,000 worth of resources for you? If so, great. If not, it kind of depends on what you're optimizing for. Some venture funded companies don't care. They just want to see revenue growth because they think they'll make it up in volume later, as the old saying goes. So just kind of what you're indexing for, I think.
Right. You're getting back to land and expand, right? It's always the gold mine, but sometimes it doesn't pan out as often as or as wealthy as you like.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure that your focus is pclub, for the foreseeable future. If that wasn't around, what product on, it can be something today or at any point in time, would you love to be selling?
I don't know
Why?
so I go back and forth on this one. At some point in life, I would love to become wealthy enough where I could make a dent in cleaning the oceans in some way. Now,
Yeah.
I also don't know if I could actually follow through on that, because I love the ocean so much that I almost just don't want to know. Right. I think like if you got into the thick of it and you learned all these things about, pollution and stuff, I think it would probably change how I see the Pacific Ocean. Right. I
Yeah.
live minutes away from it, and I go walk there every morning and every evening and just kind of like bask in it for a few minutes. But the ocean is something I've always been passionate about. I'm not like an ocean expert or anything like that. I just personally love it. So I think that's one, is like, I guess I wouldn't be selling anything, but somehow donating to some organization that helps with that. I think that'd be interesting. I don't know if there's anything I would rather sell than pclub, though, because pclub, one of the causes I really care about is helping people build economically valuable skills. That's the mission of pclub, is helping other people build economically valuable skills. Some people have more noble causes they're after in life. This is the one that fires me up, though. I love learning. I love skill acquisition. I love sales and go-to-market. And so having this venture where I get to kind of marry all of those passions, it's the perfect business for me.
Well, that's great. I actually love that answer about the ocean. So I worked for a while for a Dutch company, and eventually came upon, I don't know if you've seen the ocean cleanup, but Boren Slut and his company, great stuff. I love their interceptor project, keeping it from entering the ocean in the first place. The big vats that they have out in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, doing great work. And I think that I would, I continue to donate where I can, but that's I love that project.
Yeah.
And likewise, I'm about to launch a services business myself, an agency for go-to-market efficiency. I've always been thrilled with process improvement and engineering. I've taken a lot of turns through B2B SaaS companies and have been able to serve in a number of different roles, being success, sales, marketing, and product management. So I'm going to be taking that onto the road and see where it takes me. But it can't be a lifestyle business for sure. I haven't exited a company well enough to put me in that bracket, but we'll be hopefully getting there in the next couple of years. Chris, I appreciate the time. I know it's been busy for you, and I'd like to connect and stay in touch. Like I said, I'll be following the pclub content and hopefully taking a course myself very soon.
Great. Well, good luck, Jamie.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great one.